Good morning, all you freedom-loving patriots out there. Craig Gibson here with Sons of Liberty, and this is Constitution Coffee and Service. Well, this Saturday here in Tennessee, it kicks off deer season, starting with the archery portion. So this week's coffee is our Overwatch Coffee Shop Hunter's Call. This is our Southern Pecan roasted flavor. It's definitely one of my favorites, especially when the weather starts getting a little cooler and we start getting ready for deer season. It's just definitely one of my favorites this time of year. Right now we're working on releasing a new one. This is going to be a limited run. Haven't come up with the name for it yet, but I'm real close on it. It's going to be one of those pumpkin flavored ones. No, it's not going to be pumpkin spice. Because I think everybody that's all about this pumpkin spice this time of year needs to seek professional help. But that's just my opinion. But anyway, we'll be brewing this up all week. Definitely come in, give it a try. Hopefully you enjoy this one. If not, like I've said before, we've got several other flavors. Plus we have plenty of non-flavored coffees for you to choose from. All right, before we get on to the amendment portion. So apparently last week's video brought some concerns from some people. They were worried about me. They were worried about thinking maybe I was depressed, worried about my inability to enhance my calm, as my wife would say. Well, don't worry, guys. I'm fine. And when I say I'm fine, I mean, like, all right, no, I'm not depressed. It's not worth getting depressed over, okay? Now, I will tell you this. Yes, I'm angry. I'm angry when I look at what's happening to our nation. I'm angry when I look at what's happening to our world. The hatred and the evil that's out there, yes, it makes me angry. It makes me sad for our nation. But what really hurts the most, I think, is all the people who, just a few years ago, under the Obama administration, were running around talking about being patriots and talking about standing up for the Constitution, and at a time that we really needed them to be voicing their opinions, or facts rather. I'd rather hear facts than opinions, because, I mean, think about it. When Obama was in office, there was a lot of conspiracy theories out there, many of which proved to be inaccurate, completely false. Now, there were some that were 100% true and should have resulted in criminal charges, but they haven't as of yet. But it just irritates me that at a time that they need to be speaking up and speaking out and being louder than those on the opposition who are destroying our nation, we hear nothing but crickets. And so, yeah, when I look at what's happening to our nation, yes, I'm angry. I'm angry when I see our police officers being ambushed and gunned down in the streets simply because of the uniform they wear. I'm angry when I see the way our servicemen and women are treated. And yes, some things have gotten better since President Trump has been in office, but they're still treated like second-class citizens. They're still treated with suspicion. You know, if a soldier comes home and is suffering from PTSD or a traumatic brain injury, people don't care. People act like they're a burden on society, that they're a danger to society simply because they have something going on inside them. It's not a visible wound. And yes, different things can trigger different responses, whether it's depression and sadness, anger, violence, whatever it is. But instead of condemning these men and women. We should be helping them. We should be reaching out there and helping them. Because whether you like it or not, and whether you agreed with it or not, as an American citizen, we ask these men and women to go to war, to fight for our nation, to go overseas, to be away from their families, and then we don't want to take care of them when they come home. So yeah, I'm angry about that. We need to be louder than those out there destroying our nation. If you're sitting back and you're seeing what's going on, and it doesn't stir some emotion, some anger, the will to fight, the will to stand up for our fellow citizens, to stand up for this nation, then either you have no heart, or you're not paying attention to what's really going on out there. And, you know, as much as I stay away from the media because of everything that's out there, it doesn't matter. It still infiltrates, works its way in. You know, we've had several people come in here and, oh, did you hear about this? No, I didn't, because I'm not paying attention to it. I'm not listening to it. It's of no importance at this time, because until we are ready to stand up for our nation and for our fellow citizens, I don't care. I don't want to hear about it. I don't care what Nancy Pelosi did. We know she should have been out of Congress a long time ago. I don't care what Chuck Schumer did. He shouldn't be there either. Or Mitch McConnell should not be in office right now. You know, and many others that should not be there right now, because we need term limits on these people. This is ridiculous that they are still in office. But anyway, so I just wanted to let you guys know, I'm fine. I'm angry. I'm angry at what's going on in our world. But here's the thing. While I'm angry, I'm not afraid. Not afraid. Because we knew this was going to happen. Anybody who has ever opened their Bible knew this was going to happen at some point. We didn't know when. We didn't know when. And really, we've brought it on ourselves by our actions or our inaction in certain cases. So, anyway, all right, so 16th Amendment. 16th Amendment is pretty straightforward. It allows Congress to levy an income tax without apportioning it among the states on the basis of population. Now, prior to the 20th century, most federal revenue came from tariffs rather than taxes. And, you know, Congress several times had tried to impose different taxes, but it never stuck. Now, here was the problem with tariffs. Unlike today, where I don't know the exact percentage or the exact number, but unlike today, we didn't have these huge corporations partnering with farms. You know, corporations like Green Giant, Tyson, Dole, Del Monte, a number of other corporations, where you were guaranteed so much based on contracts that would be renegotiated at different periods for what you were to produce and what they would buy and at what rates. You know, back during these times, you know, most of these farmers were simply poor farmers. They raised their livestock or their crops and they sold it. Sometimes that meant shipping it to other parts of the country, out of the state they live in. And there would be tariffs placed on this. Well, so one of the concerns with it was that this was taxing the poor. The poor was paying for primarily everything, plus trying to feed their families and make a living. And unfortunately, there are still farmers today, private farmers, that deal with this. there have been programs put in place that some help, some make it worse. Some have actually made some farmers lazy because they can still get paid whether they grow crops or not, and their crop rotations and growing seasons are dictated more by government than by the old ways of growing and producing food. Now, not every farmer does this, not every farmer is involved in this. Some farmers truly could use a little bit of help. So I'm not saying it's necessarily bad, but like every social program that's ever been put in place, starting with programs that old FDR put in place, they continually grow and build and become these monstrous programs that overburden the citizens with taxes. And unfortunately, a lot of times it's citizens that will never use these programs. So, when the idea of a federal income tax came about, the idea was that the wealthier would pay the burden of most federal spending. Now, here's what a lot of people don't understand, and it drives me nuts because it's simple math. It's simple mathematical equations. I mean, in fact, so simple a first grader could do it. Okay. Now, we talked about, well, the wealthy don't pay their fair share because they only pay this percentage and we paid this percentage. Look, let's base it on just a flat 10% tax rate, okay? So at 10%, somebody making $10,000 a year would only pay $1,000 into the federal program. Now, somebody making $10,000 a year is more likely to use many of the social programs, Medicaid, food stamps, other welfare programs, and they're paying the least into it. Now, you take someone making $50,000 a year, they're less likely to take advantage of some of the programs because of their yearly income, but they are now paying $5,000 a year into it. Someone making $100,000 a year is going to pay $10,000 a year into the federal programs. You see, the more you make, just because the percentage does not increase, they're still paying more than the people that are out there screaming about the wealthy aren't paying their fair share. Well, guess what? Yeah, they are. Okay, someone who's making $1 million a year is paying in $100,000 a year. Now, keep in mind, this is without any tax loopholes or any programs that offset taxes. This is just straight 10% tax. You don't get a break for the number of people you hire. You don't get a break for your house. You don't get a break for the car you drive or anything like that. This is just straight 10%. And the other side of that is our government, as we know, has this huge problem with living within their means. Every time on paper they see, oh, we're going to have this much left over, so we need to create a new program, or we need a raise. And that's another thing. Why do our elected officials get to vote themselves raises when that's not something the average citizen gets to do? We have to wait for the prescribed times for raises, or finally get around to asking the boss, hey, look, I've been here 10 years, can we talk about a raise? So when I hear people talk about taxes and that, it's like, look, I get it. I mean, depending on where you live in this country, you could be taxed well up to 60% of your income. When you start looking at property taxes, sales taxes, federal taxes, state taxes, I mean, it's ridiculous. We need to go to a simple tax across the board. Here it is. This is the percentage everybody pays. The government now has to live within its means, which means, guess what? We're cutting some of these programs because you're now keeping more money in your pocket. We're not taking in more money to keep running these programs. But see, people don't want to do that because they start hearing flat tax and things like that, and they freak out because there are people that do not pay taxes right now on the federal level and or state income taxes. You know, they might still pay into Social Security, Medicare, sales taxes, things like that, but they're not paying into the overall tax. And those are the people that will scream the loudest when you try to change it because, oh no, now I'm having to pay in. Now I have to pay $1,000 a year in taxes. I can't make it on $10,000 a year. Then go out and get another job. Learn a trade. You know, there's always ways around it. There are always ways. But anyway, so that's the 16th Amendment. You know, it seems like just about every week on the service portion we're talking about our law enforcement. And why not? You know, I'm sick of seeing ambushes on our officers and partial videos being released by nosy people on cell phones that don't tell the whole story, and they try to create chaos. And the problem is our society, they don't wait for the full video to come out. They're going to run with partial opinionated information, and it is dangerous for our nation. And we're not going to get into it on this video. I will probably do a second video today talking about the state of our country and Civil War. But I don't know if it's that they don't realize how ignorant they're showing themselves to be, or if they don't realize the damage that they are causing to this nation, or if they don't care. Maybe they do realize it, but they just don't care because they've never been made to work for anything in their lives. But yeah, so the honoring our servicemen and women this week. It doesn't matter what the uniform is, whether it's military, law enforcement, EMS, fire. Our power company employees, the ones that are out there, wading through water, or they come in right after the storm hits and they work the best they can to get the power back up to communities. And it's funny because nobody ever thanks them for that. Oh, they're sure to scream and yell about how they can't get their power back on when they think they should, not realizing or caring that these men and women are out there doing a job that is extremely dangerous. But they still do it. And they do it in all types of weather to try to make sure you have power to stay warm or cool, to make sure your refrigerator keeps running, medical equipment keeps running. So yeah, guys, if you see any of these people, be sure to thank them for what they do. Because without them, our nation wouldn't keep running. Our nation wouldn't have the safety that it does have. The forest fires wouldn't be fought. House fires wouldn't be fought. Nobody would be there to respond to your medical calls. So be sure to thank them. All right, guys, as always, fear is a liar. So faith over fear. And be the kind of American worth the sacrifice that these men and women make every day. All right, guys, we'll talk to you later.